What's up, New York? How's everybody doing today? Oh my gosh, that was a New York welcome. Come on, one more time. How's everyone doing today? That is more like it. Finally, the World Series of Fighting is in the Big Apple, and we brought two of the biggest legends in the history of mixed martial arts to sit here today, answer all your questions, let you guys get to know them personally. So without further ado, let's bring them out. Randy, the Natural Couture, and Chuck, the Iceman Liddell. Randy, I'll give you this one.
Give me the yellow one.
Yes, you're going to get a mic too, Chuck. I'm the last person on the stage who needs a mic, but I'm going to take advantage of this situation and be the first person to ask you a question. Randy, I want to start with you. Your career's legendary, multiple weight class champion. Tell me, what was the toughest fight you've ever had?
Well, I scored off with this guy a couple times. A couple of those didn't go so well. I think the toughest was the first time I fought Pedro Rizzo. I fought him just over the river in New Jersey, in Atlantic City. 5-round brawl, back and forth. I broke my nose. I got kicked in the leg about 14 times. I didn't walk right for about 6 weeks after that fight, but that was a tough one.
And Chuck, World Series of Fighting, we have our own Chuck Liddell-esque champion. It's Justin Gaethje. He comes from a wrestling background, but he uses wrestling in reverse, keeps the fight standing, knocks out his opponents. Give us your thought on him as a fighter and as his progression in mixed martial arts.
He's a very tough kid. I like watching him. Obviously, I like watching him fight. He has a style I like. You know, he uses his wrestling to stay on his feet and knock people out. So I think he just keeps getting better, and he's got a good future.
Awesome. Great future starting tomorrow night. Cannot wait to see it. Guys, now we're going to open this up to you guys, all the fans. We've got a mic stand set up right here. So please, everybody, walk on up. Everyone who has a question, walk up to the mic stand, form a line behind it, and then ask away. Ask Randy and Chuck anything you guys have ever wanted to know. Don't everyone go at once.
It's like Ferris Bueller.
Bueller? Anyone. Here we go. First lady up.
Hi, guys. First, I just want to say it's an honor to have you here in New York, you know, that being the second fight here in New York City at Madison Square Garden. And pop culture has been so hit by mixed martial arts, and Chuck and Randy, you guys are such a huge part of that, being in movies and TV and things like that. Are you guys happy with the way fight scenes are going now? Are they a little bit more realistic using MMA techniques? What are your thoughts on this?
I think that's one of the challenges in making a film. If you look at a film like Warrior, who did a pretty good job. It was pretty dark, pretty gritty. But now when you can watch mixed martial arts just about every week, every weekend on television, live in real time, and see guys, and the effects of guys getting kicked and punched and all that stuff, it's really hard with actors to capture that in a film and make it look that real. And so I think, like boxing and boxing films, you have to make it more about the story, about all the things that go on behind the actual fights. If it's just about the fights, it's going to be really hard to pull that off and make it look right.
Chuck, what do you think?
Yeah, well, you know, I just did a movie with someone, and you know, he's a good actor. He's a football player, and he was doing a fight scene with me, and you know, just getting him to do a double leg. I mean, he knows how to tackle, but it's just like he's worried about hurting me doing that. I mean, it was frustrating a little bit, but it's hard to show guys that in a couple weeks. And he took some time with us and worked with me, but it's still hard to make it look real. Now that people see what it looks like for real, it's hard to make that look real. But you know, I think it comes along. And got a lot more of advice from guys that actually know how to fight with the fight scenes. So it's getting better.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much, and it's a pleasure to have you here.
It's a pleasure to be here. It's an honor to be in Madison Square Garden and such a historic place for fighting. And you know, obviously, I think Chuck had the luxury of being at the first fights here. I'm persona non grata with those guys.
I actually had to miss it. I was in Hawaii.
So we weren't
I had a
here.
Hawaii trip planned when they scheduled that, and I couldn't change it. So.
What about Chuck being in the Expendables 4 and then just taking on Randy?
You know, I wish I had that kind of juice. There are guys a lot bigger than me in the industry that make those kind of calls, and I've heard rumors about who's going to be in 4. I've heard Dwayne Johnson's name thrown around. I've actually heard the Hulk Hogan's name thrown around as well.
Nice.
But I don't have any of that kind of input into that property.
Thank you, guys.
Anyone else? Come on down. Don't be shy.
Hi guys. You guys have been obviously legends of the sport, and it's been a while since the two of you have fought, and since that time a lot has happened. You know, legalization in New York, women's MMA rising. I wanted to know, what do you guys think is going to happen for this upcoming year? Like especially with the introduction with the Fighters Union, what are some things that you're looking forward to in 2017?
Well, I think it's going to be a very interesting year in 2017. Obviously, a lot of changes going on with the biggest promotion in the sport, with the UFC being sold and WME owning it now. Chuck can allude to that too. Things have changed for him a little bit. I think, and I'm part of a Mixed Martial Arts Fighters Association. We're trying to organize the fighters a little bit. I think what people don't realize is that we're all independent contractors as fighters. We're not employees of the promotions. So the union model doesn't really fit. If you look at the NFL and what other players or fighters or athletes have done, it's more of an association type of thing. I think a big thing that we need as mixed martial artists is to see the Ali Act, which was implemented in 2000, amended to include other combative sports like mixed martial arts. There's some structural issues with MMA right now. The promotions, like this is an amazing promotion. I'm great friends with Ray Sefo, the president of this organization. Chuck and I are happy to be here representing and promoting this fight here in Madison Square Garden. But promoters and the sanctioning bodies in mixed martial arts are the same person. That's a whole lot of power. And especially if you look at what's going on in the UFC, they're manipulating those rankings and those title shots to their benefit, and really kind of holding fighters' feet to the fire to sign exclusive contracts. It's a very anti-competitive market in mixed martial arts. Everybody asked me the entire time I fought for 14 years, well, how does Floyd Mayweather make $40 million on one of his fights, and you don't even make anywhere near that amount? It's because of that structure that is being used in mixed martial arts, that flaw, that the promoter and the sanctioning body are the same guy. That's a lot of power, and I think getting the Ali Act amended will provide mixed martial artists the protection under federal legislation and separate that power. So then it's a transparent market where we can get promoters like World Series or Bellator or the UFC to then bid to make those top fights happen, those title fights, and then the highest payer is going to get to put on that fight. That's what happens in boxing. That's why purses for boxers is so much bigger than mixed martial artists right now. And so I think we've already had a congressional hearing to get the Ali Act amended. It's going to, you know how the political process works. It takes a lot more time than that. We're hoping to be back on the floor for a vote by next June after the transition with Trump and all that stuff goes on. And so I'm hoping that next year sometime we'll get it amended, and I think that changes the landscape for all of us. Right now, 90% of the revenue brought in the sport of mixed martial arts is brought in by the UFC. The other two organizations, World Series and Bellator, combined don't even come close to that revenue. Yeah. That's the anti-competitive part of the market right now. If the Ali Act is amended, that creates a fair and open market where Bellator and World Series of Fighting can negotiate to make those top fights happen, and the whole market grows, and we as fighters succeed and get a bigger piece of the pie, and I think that's real important.
Chuck, do you have anything to say to that?
I think Randy covered that pretty well.
All right, thanks.
Those kind of answers are a hard act to follow, huh, Chuck?
Yeah, I mean, I think that was a pretty complete, informative answer.
Chuck was over there taking notes. Okay. Guys, anyone has questions, please go ahead and start moving over there. Let's get a line lined up just so we really keep this steam rolling. Everyone gets their questions answered. We want to make sure that everyone gets a chance to speak to the legends. So go ahead, sir.
What's up, y'all?
How are you, man?
Watch y'all during my teenage years, so I have a question. How do you feel about mixed martial arts coming out to New York now as opposed to back when y'all fought?
Well, it's kind of like a finally thing, you know. They were keeping us out of here for a long time for, you know, a lot of reasons, but it was stupid. I mean, we should have been here a long time ago, and it's great to finally be here and be at the Garden and having fights in New York.
It's obviously a historic place for fights. I mean, I saw Frazier and Ali posters in the foyer back here. It's an amazing place historically for combative sports. So for MMA to finally get here, to finally get on the Senate floor and get voted and approved here in the state of New York. This was the last holdout state and probably the largest group of people that wanted to see MMA here in New York City, and they had to go across the river or to Atlantic City or somewhere else to watch it up until this last year. So it's pretty awesome to be here.
All right. That's all I gotta ask.
Hey, gentlemen, thank you so much for being here today. Simple question. When we look at the workup up to fights, you see two types of fighters typically. Now, you guys are known as being incredibly respectful, incredibly well-intentioned gentlemen, people that represent the sport well. A lot of times what gets a fight going in the mainstream, in the crowd, is trash talking, the hype that leads up to it, the build up to the fight. Do you feel that there's any sort of give and take when people are trash talking and doing that it's taking away from the respect of the sport and the fact that it's not just two you know, cavemen out there brawling it out? Or do you think that it's good for building up the public display of the sport and getting more people to pay attention to the fights?
Well, I've never been a big fan of trash talking. I mean, some guys it's real, some guys it's not. But the thing is, what it does is bring in the peripheral fans, the fans that, I mean, aren't quite going to watch it. You know, they don't always watch MMA. They will sometimes watch. It brings in people that, you know, are casual viewers. You know, and it gets those people and makes the fights bigger. So I understand why people do it. I get it. It sells fights, but you know, it gets a little much for me sometimes. Sometimes it gets a little crazy. Some of these stare downs nowadays, guys touching foreheads and, well, I don't. Really, you guys are fighting tomorrow night. Relax. You know, it's like, hey, you guys gonna fight tomorrow. It'll be all right. You guys gonna take a chill and relax.
I think it's something that's more innate to this U.S. market as well. You know, there's a reason why people slow down on the freeway to look at a car wreck. I mean, that kind of thing sells. That kind of thing people are interested in. That's why is reality TV so big. It's the drama and all that people want to they want to see. They want to be around that. So I think it's used as a marketing ploy. I think, you know, Tito Ortiz was probably the first guy to kind of implement that kind of voice and persona to market himself. And obviously, we both had run-ins with Tito. You know, when you sign up for that fight, what you're in for. There's going to be a bunch of smack talking, a bunch of that, and we're of the ilk to, you know, stay focused, not let that get under your skin, and stay focused on what you needed to do to win the fight. Instead of all that other crap. Obviously, Conor McGregor has taken a lot of that to a whole new level, and that transition started with Chael Sonnen, I think, who, you know, I don't know where he comes up with some of that stuff. It's pretty amazing, but I think at the end of the day, it's still a marketing ploy to garner support and to get more fights. We've seen guys talk their way into title fights.
I mean, I think it's also a head game, too, for some of the guys. I think Conor does it real well as far as, I think with Aldo, he actually won that fight in the trash talking. He got him pissed. He got him mad. Aldo came out, ran straight across the ring to hit him. He never does that. He always comes out, feels the guy out first, and then, so, you know, he won that in the trash talk. So
there is a psychological aspect to it, for sure. And I think you and I both know that's Tito's goal. He wants you pissed off and thinking about crushing his throat instead of thinking about what we really need to do technically and tactically to win the fight. And neither one of us played into that game, but that is a part of it. I think hopefully we never stray away from the martial arts part of what we do. And that's where you pick a guy up and we both say, great fight, and show that camaraderie and that respect for each other, certainly after a fight. I think it's fair game what happens before a fight.
Awesome. Thank you so much. One very quick follow-up question. I have always wondered, between you two, who would win in a battle of thumb wrestling? Any chance we could see that right now?
I don't know. You writing the check?
Well played. Thanks a lot, guys.
Gentlemen, how's it going?
Good, how are you?
Good, man, good. Pleasure's mine. I got a question. So, Randy, you talked about your craziest professional fight earlier. What about your guys' non-professional fights, like outside of the octagon? You guys ever get any scuffles? And you guys ever
Any? Is that
Any?
it?
Yeah. Let's hear your craziest freaking scuffle story.
Man, craziest.
You have to change the name.
I was never a big street fighter. I never got into a lot of fights. I think 2 all through school. In '95, we were down in Buckhead, outside of Atlanta, which is a big area, a lot of bars there. Dan Henderson and I had just made the world team for Greco-Roman wrestling, and they were putting on the Freestyle World Championships as kind of the precursor to the '96 Olympics. So we're celebrating. We just made the world team. We went out into Buckhead and had a few cocktails, which is usually how these things start. They're like, oh yeah, here, hold my beer, watch this. We weren't trying to start any trouble, but I put my hand on a car to tie my shoe, and next thing I know, there's 4 guys come out of this club saying, hey, leave that car alone. And I'm like, sorry, I wasn't doing anything to the car. And ended up, one of the guys had a bat, and I couldn't figure out what he needed a bat for. I mean, it wasn't doing anything. And ended up snatching the bat from him and chasing him back into the club. I never caught him. Came back out, and Henderson had the other guy, one of the other guys on the ground. His shirt was gone. We're like, what the hell? And we ended up walking away. Nobody got hurt, but that was probably one of the craziest things. And then the coup de grace of the story is I was on the board of directors for USA Wrestling at the time as an athlete's rep. And we had a big board meeting in conjunction with the World Championships going on there. That evening we went to dinner, and we went out after that. We ended up in this club, and I'm standing there still licking my wounds from the night before, and all of a sudden I got 2 police officers and a security guard in my face saying, you're out of here. And I'm like, dude, what? I didn't do anything. It's like, well, you were in here last night with a baseball bat. I'm like, oh, shit. This is the same place. I didn't realize I'd walked into the same club. That's how bad it was.
I know you got something for me, Chuck.
Okay. For me, I don't have. It's not. I've got a lot to choose from. I fought a lot growing up.
He was a bouncer, too, for a
I was
while.
a bouncer for a while too, but some of my younger stories are more fun. I was probably 21, out in Isla Vista, and I was walking on Isla Vista. That's where we went. I grew up fighting out there, probably every weekend almost, I think. Now, don't get me wrong. I always say I never started a fight, but I just never let guys out of them real easy either. So, but anyway, so while I was walking, and I was talking to this girl in the middle of the street on Del Playa, and these 4 dudes walk up and they're like, I was by myself. My brothers were down the street. They're coming up. But I'm sitting there, and the guys just started giving me a hard time. I'm like, look, man, I don't want any trouble with you guys. I'm just sitting here talking. Oh, all right, then walk on. I'm not going anywhere. I don't want to fight you guys, but I'm not going anywhere. I'm not leaving. So they kept doing that. Then my brothers walked up. I got my 2 brothers. One of my brothers is a little crazier than me. If you believe that. My other one's my little brother, but my little brother's like 6'4", like 300 pounds. So they both walk up, and everything. We're in face. This guy's talking a bunch of trash with me, and then one of the guys says something to my brother. My brother says, "What?" And starts to say "fuck you" to my brother. My brother hits him, right? So drops him into the thing, and he's sitting there kneeing him against his car, right? So the guy next to him turns right away. The guy right in front of me turns to hit my brother. I'm like, why? Just give me his chin. So wham, dropped him.
Been there.
Took one of the guys through the car, in between these cars. I'm hitting him, kneeing him in the fence. Then I look back, and my brother's, like I said, he's a little crazy. He's still kicking the same guy. He's still on the ground, kneeing the same guy that he hit. And I look, and one of the guys is running over to kick him. So I look, and I go, oh, how am I going to get there in time? Oh, I guess I got to go in the car. So I jumped up on the car, flew off, and hit a flying sidekick in the street. Hit the guy. He did about a 180, fell down, and that was about it for the fight. But then I go back to school, and one of my buddies goes, "Hey, were you in Isla Vista last weekend?" I'm like, "Yeah, why? You didn't happen to jump off a car and kick someone, did you?" I'm like, "Yeah, well, I wasn't there, but it was So yeah, that was a fun story. It was just an interesting. I never thought I'd use a flying sidekick in a street fight, but it actually came in handy.
Hell yeah. Nice. Thank you, gents.
You bet.
What's up? How you guys doing? Just want to first of all say thanks for coming to New York. This has been long overdue. As a sport trainer and as I'm continue to get ready to become a physical therapist, particularly in the New York area, we're hungry, and I'm excited to see like the culture of New York and fighting in MMA. Where we're now having events, we're open, and I've actually fell in love with the sport. Sports science is kind of intertwined, and I'm looking at training styles, and from a basketball player, I just thought it was just brute guys scrapping it out, but now you actually see legends, and you get to see the fights, you get to see the technique and watch some good fighters. So who are some of the guys that you were excited out? Because somebody just asked a question about sometimes there's marketing and there's promo, but what fighting styles and techniques, and what guys are you actually looking forward to see that makes you want to turn on the TV and say, oh, let me watch this guy, or let me tune in this card and see what's going on?
Man, there's so many young fighters. It's hard to keep up and know so many of it. It felt like when we started, we knew everybody in the game, and knew their backgrounds and knew their styles and kind of how they fought. And I bet there's 80% of them out there now. I don't know who they are and where they came from and what their backgrounds are. It's cool because New York has such a rich history in combative sports, such a strong wrestling grassroots movement here in this state. It's this state in California, one of the few states that has one true state champion in each weight class. There's no classes or anything like that based on school size. Obviously, the boxing history is strong here as well, and you start combining all those things, and you have mixed martial arts. We've got guys like Matt Serra and Renzo Gracie come out of this area, out of the region, and they were always amazing competitors. But there's just too many young guys right now to tell you that there's one that.
One guy that
I mean, Gaethje. You talked about Gaethje. I mean, he's pretty impressive and pretty amazing. My son's fighting. I just saw Liam McCreary in the back, I love watching him fight. He's got a lot of tools, long-rangey guy. He's one of those guys you want to figure out how you solve that problem. There's just a ton of guys.
Yeah, I like watching guys fight that are trying to end fights. I don't care how they're trying to do it. I want to watch guys that are trying to finish a fight. I don't like watching guys point fight. I don't want to watch a guy just eke a win and just be safe and go out there. So any of the guys that are coming after it and going, I don't care if you're a ground and pound guy, I don't care if you're a submission guy, I don't care. Obviously, I'm leaning towards the strikers, but yeah, I like guys trying to finish fights. So you got guys that get out there getting after it and going to end people.
I think that's a big difference between what we do as mixed martial artists and what's going on in boxing. Everybody talks about the heyday of boxing, and I remember just 2 days ago posting that Hagler-Hearns fight, and that 3 rounds of, I mean, you just knew somebody was going down in that fight, and the boxers used to box that way. They didn't care. They weren't out trying to score points and get through 12 rounds to win a fight. They were going out to knock somebody's damn head off, and I think that's the way mixed martial artists tend to approach fights, and I think boxers have kind of strayed away from that a little bit. It's rough in boxing. If you lose a fight, man, it's like almost like your career's over. And I think in MMA we're still allowed to lose. There's so many ways to win or lose. We're still allowed to lose a fight and still continue on that road towards being a champion and winning a title. And I think boxers could take a little bit of a lesson from that. Go out, let it hang out like the guys did in the day. Hey,
Complete honor.
thank you, appreciate it.
Hey, I don't know how much time we have, but if you can touch a little bit on your transition. I know, Randy, I guess you started off as a wrestler,
I was a wrestler.
right? And
Chuck was a wrestler as well. I think he had a little more kickboxing background than I didn't have any of that kind of background coming out and transitioning to MMA. I was purely a wrestler.
Yeah, I think the advantage I had in the beginning against most people came in with one discipline in the beginning and had to add 2. I came in with 2 and had to add 1. I had to learn the submission side of it, which I knew a little bit of, but I was kickboxing. I went from college wrestling to kickboxing, and then to MMA. So I did a bunch of years of kickboxing. I had 22 fights kickboxing before I started doing MMA. So I had that extra edge in transitioning.
Hell, the
Randy,
only one that ever punched me in the face was my sister.
So how did you transition? How was that for you, going from wrestling into mixed martial arts?
I had to make friends with getting hit. It's that simple. I'd never really been in, I mean, yeah, there's a lot of head contact and a lot of contact in wrestling, especially I did a lot more Greco-Roman wrestling than a lot of guys around, and it's a much more upright posture, which is more akin to fighting. So I think it's certainly with infighting and clinch fighting, I had an advantage there because I'd spent years and years and years at a high level wrestling Greco, but I'd never really been punched in the face.
Yeah, I think I used to coach a lot of wrestlers coming into the sport, and I think the biggest thing for wrestlers is they got to. I always say that guy doesn't like to get hit, but no one likes to get hit. But what I mean is he doesn't like to get hit to a point it's a detriment to his fighting. If you're afraid to get hit, and you come out, you're doing this one. If I see a guy start doing that, I'm licking my chops. It's so easy to set him up. So
It's counterintuitive, like a lot of things in fighting. You get hit and you want to like, whoa, and that's going to get you hit more. And through training, you learn to keep your eyes open, keep your nose in the fight, and stay in there. Getting hit, and you've seen guys like the Forrest Griffin, a lot of guys that it didn't seem like they were fighting until they got hit, and that like flipped their switch, and then it was on until they saw their own blood. They're like, oh, okay, now it's time to go. I think there's something about being a fighter that sort of thing, you know, it has to be in you. And we've seen guys, you know, you talk about Lesnar. Lesnar was one of those guys that never made friends with being hit, and we saw it in Cain Velasquez and some of the matchups that he had. The guy cracked him, and he was like, whoa.
and he's a very tough individual.
Very athletic.
And very mentally tough. I mean, that beating he was taking from
Carwin, yeah.
Carwin
Shane
was.
Carwin.
I mean, coming back from that and surviving that was. I mean, that. But he
Which
still.
fight was that? I'm sorry.
Shane Carwin
Shane
and
Carwin.
Brock Lesnar.
I mean, coming back from that and beating him, but he still just never got used to getting hit, or he's so afraid to get hit that.
My coach, one of my early coaches, I worked with Eric Paulson a lot in the first couple years of my fight career, and he stuffed me in the corner in the gym where I had nowhere to go and just started throwing punches at me. And corner drill, that's what he called it. He even did the double donkey punch on me a time or two, but just trying to get me to keep my face in the fight, not blink, not close my eyes, learn to use my elbows, my hands, and move my head to slip and get used to seeing those things coming at your face. It's a big part of it.
Thank you very much.
All right, we're going to take one more question here from the lovely lady stepping up to the mic. And then we've also got a lot of fans watching on Facebook Live. So we're going to take a couple of their questions as well. So, Miss, you go ahead, and you are our last person question.
So because it's my 75th birthday, I came out here from Washington on the West Coast to ask Randy if he's still a Seahawk fan.
Absolutely. I grew up in Seattle.
I know you did.
My family's all still there. I was just there for Thanksgiving with my mom and my sisters, and grew up a Seahawk fan. Absolutely.
Good. And
I can finally wear that hat with pride.
there you go. So for both of you, my daughter-in-law has your pictures on her office in Seattle. Both of your pictures. She loves both of you, and so do we. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, our first question from the Facebook Live world is from Sherry Gibson. And Chuck, Randy, she wants to know if there's anyone fighting today that you wish you had a chance to fight if you were still competing. That's a good question.
If I was, I guess the big question is if I was still competing. Yeah.
I know you were going to say.
What?
Fedor.
Oh, I thought you meant like fighting tonight, or is it fighting or any time?
fighting-
Yeah, Fedor's the one fight that didn't happen that I wish would have happened. And again, we talked a little about that structure and the non-competitive nature of it in mixed martial arts, and I think that's one of the reasons that fight was never allowed to happen. Was it would have crossed promotions, and there was no open market. So that was the one fight that, if I had the chance at that time, he was ranked number 1 in the world. I was ranked number 2 in the world. That was the fight I wanted to happen, and chased it for a while, and it never happened. But
Anyone else out there today?
no, I don't know. I think each and every guy poses a certain set of problems. It's always how I looked at the sport, and you had to figure out how to solve the problem, and that's what makes it interesting. That's what I love about the sport.
Yeah, mine's easy. I mean, I fought everybody during my career that I wanted to fight. I wish I'd fought a few of them earlier than I did. I mean, you know, when I would have liked to fight Vanderlei when it was still, when we were both still champions.
Oh, yeah.
But
that fight was supposed to happen.
It was a
They
long
hoped
time
you'd get into the finals of the
Right.
The Grand Prix.
Yeah, they actually tried to get him to put me in the first round with them. I think they were going to pull me after that, but they didn't. They wouldn't do that. So, but now, I mean, nowadays, I mean, I would have liked a shot at John Jones. I mean, I think I match up well with him. I mean, he's not going to be able to control me. I wouldn't be able. If he could take me down, if he could take me down, I'd get back up. I don't think his jiu-jitsu is good enough on top, and standing up, I will hit him. I mean, I'm a lot longer than people think. I'm listed as a 76-inch reach. That was because John had me do this. 'Cause John didn't want anyone knowing my real reach, so he didn't want him. I have like a 79-inch reach, so it's not. I'm not short. I have a long reach too, so I'd catch him.
All right, and the next question is from David Wald, and what he wants to know is, when you guys were competing, did you ever imagine the sport would grow to what it's grown to today, that it'd be this big on public, on, you know, national television? Every single night of the week, there's a fight on some channel. You know, when you guys were competing, did you visualize that one day that this sport would reach that level?
I don't think anybody really. I mean, we were hopeful, but we were also scared that it was gonna go away. There was such backlash with Senator McCain and you know, getting us dropped from cable and all the things that were going on back then. It felt like it was a constant education process. We were running towards being regulated, and that almost every fight there was a new set of rules, a new rule or two added that we had to figure out how to implement into our fighting style. But I think we're all happy that it did explode. Chuck and I got to be coaches on the first season of The Ultimate Fighter, and I think that was really the thing that changed the landscape for all of us. When you get into a few million living rooms on a weekly basis and people get to see what's behind guys that walk up in a cage and punch each other, and there's so much more to it. There's a lot more depth and character and passion. I think a lot of us did it for a lot less. I know I wrestled for years and years and years for nothing, because it's what we love to do. We're competitive sports athletes. That's what we do. But it's been, I think, almost swung too far the other way, because there is a show every weekend now. It's lost some of that. You know, when we were going, it was kind of special. There was 6, 8, maybe 10 shows a year, one a month if you were lucky, and there was something very special about that. And now there's, you know,
there's a fight every week, but
yeah,
sometimes
a couple
I think there's a
fights
couple
every
times been
week.
like 3, I think there's been 3 in a day before.
Yeah, so
You almost
it's
can't
a little
watch.
bit different, and I don't know. I still love it, but I think it's different now than it was then.
Yeah, I mean, I always thought it would get here someday. I didn't realize it would get here this fast. You know, I think I think it's the greatest sport in the world. And I thought eventually when we get it out to enough people, it'll grow. But I thought it was going to take a lot longer. And you know, the reality show, it was our Trojan horse, get a live fight on TV, and then you got a live fight on TV, and then we have the Griffin Bonner fight.
Force,
you know,
which
where
was,
yeah.
I mean, you couldn't ask for a better fight
was
for your
amazing.
first live fight on TV. I mean,
And we
if
got to
that
be
had
at
been
Ring.
a sleeper, that might not have been good. And then, you know, but it was a great fight, you know, and highlighted all the different things. You know, they were wrestling, they were doing jiu-jitsu, they were standing up. It was a great fight to have for that opening fight, and it just exploded from there.
Do you guys feel that the sport has reached its pinnacle, or where do we go from here? Where's the ceiling?
I don't think it's reached its pinnacle at all. I certainly, you know, some people, is the market saturated? Is there too much going on? I don't think there's too much going on. I think if we create that transparency we talked about and a fair competitive market where these promoters can all bid for those top fights, instead of kind of what's going on now with one promotion really kind of getting the opportunity through exclusive contracts to make a lot of the big fights happen, I think we're going to see the sport take another leap up, another big leap up, and it'll be more like what we know as prize fighting through boxing. We'll see the Fedor Couture fight or things like that happen with that open market.
Chuck?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a fight fan first. I want to see the best guys fight the best guys. So whatever we have to do to get that to happen, you know, that's what I want to see. Because I always hated, you know, Pride, UFC, you know, it's just, you have 2 champions and it's everyone's trying to figure out who's the real champion. You know, why don't we just find out? You know,
There's
that's-
only one
that's
way
the
to
you
do
wanna see
that.
it.
And we still got that problem in boxing today.
Yeah.
It's across the board in combat sports.
It can be an issue. You know, you look at Mayweather and Pacquiao. That should have happened 5 years before that, and negotiations were tough to deal with. But still, it happened.
And now we have Gennady Golovkin and Canelo. It's a fight that everyone wants to see, and it keeps on. So hopefully one day we'll resolve that, and the best will always fight the best.
Yep.
All right, last question, guys. The most important one. It's a two-part question. It's from Bailey Smith. And Bailey wants to know, first, do you have any predictions for the title fights tomorrow night? And is there one fight in particular that you guys are both most looking forward to?
Okay, I'm not making any predictions, but
I've never been big on predictions.
I've never been a predictions guy.
You want to chew on your sneaker, make
Yeah.
a prediction.
You know, but Shields and Fitch, John Fitch and Jake Shields. I mean,
Yeah.
two guys are actually, I'm really good friends with both of them. I really like both guys. And
Shields got to start with you, right?
yeah,
It's slow
Shi-
kickboxing.
Yeah, Shields been training with me since he was, I think, 19 years old. So
And I've been a big fan of Fitch for a long time. He wrestled at Purdue. He's got that wrestling background that we share, and he has a style that I like to watch. So that's going to be a
yeah,
great
it's
fight.
going to be a great fight. I mean, it's one of those hard fights to watch because I want both of them to win, and that's no way for that to really happen. Like watching BJ and Matt Hughes fight. You know, it's like, okay, how do I'm cheering for both of them, not cheering for, don't hurt. It's tough. But,
Okay,
it's going to be fun.
I'm going to put you both on the spot. Last thing right now, you have the existing relationship with Jake Shields, big fan of Fitch. Chuck, tell me, what does Jake Shields have to do to get the win tomorrow night?
I think Jake needs I think you get after him and go work his jiu-jitsu, work his submissions, and not let Fitch control him. You know, so it'll be fun. It'll be interesting to see. I'll see how it's going to happen. Both those guys are tough, man.
I don't know how many times I've had another top-notch wrestler like Fitch go against a guy like Shields, or Shields in particular, and think, hey, he's just going to, you know, he's going to control him. He can't take him down. He can't put him where his strength is his submission game, and he's going to have trouble getting this guy down there. And I would say the same thing going into this fight with Fitch. He's going to have trouble getting Fitch on the ground, trouble controlling him on the ground. Fitch is going to be able to probably put him on his back, but then he's dangerous on his back. Is that what he really wants to do? It's what makes it an interesting fight.
Yeah.
And
Shields is an awkward striker.
He's made me eat
I
my
mean,
words a number of times.
He's an awkward striker, but he does it well. I mean, he gets away with it. He does some awkward things on his feet, which makes it hard for a fighter sometimes when the guy's that awkward.
I think the difference is going to be the conditioning and pressure that Fitch brings to the fight. It's a pace that not a lot of guys can keep, and that's not kind of the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu flow of a fight. They kind of want to find their places to,
Right.
And I don't think he's going to get a chance to do that, and I think that might be the difference in the fight.
Either way, it's going to be an awesome fight.
Yep.
Guys, thank you so much for being here today. Ladies and gentlemen, big round of applause. Two of the greatest fighters in the history of sport, the Iceman, Chuck Liddell, Randy, the Natural Couture. Hang tight now. In just a couple minutes, we're going to get the weigh-in started, but thank you guys all so much for coming. We got more to come.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.